everybody, happy Tuesday. I am just sitting here with you guys. I'm just bursting at the seams with happiness. And not just because it's Tuesday, not just because we're doing this, because I feel an overwhelming sense of joy. I hardly know where to begin. The last couple of videos, I alluded to the fact that I had this really awful stomach bug for like most of the month, maybe the end of July to the beginning of August. And while I'm better now, that's not the only reason that I'm happy. I found during this process I had a lot of time to think, during that illness rather. And I want to be very clear, it's not COVID, I got tested, it was just a stomach bug. I took antibiotic, everything is fine. But it took a while for things to be fine, weeks in fact. As part of my migraine-related illness, I have a very complicated gut situation. I have bad acid, I have bad gastritis, and coupled with the 10 years I took all these medications and all these things really did a lot of damage to me. There's also seems to be some correlation with people that suffer from really serious headache diseases, specifically chronic migraines. They tend to have fibromyalgia, they tend to have a lot of stomach-related issues. There's no, to my knowledge, scientific exact link, maybe something to do with the nerves in your body or the receptors. I'm not a doctor by any means. I don't even play one on TV, so I'm not going to go through the details, but I've read a lot about it, and it seems to be very common in my community. Maybe because when one central part of your body is just broken down, the rest of you sort of follows suit. You know, when one thing's out of whack, the whole system goes. So, my stomach acts up on and off whenever it feels like it. Meaning I'm sick a day or two, I try to watch what I eat, I go dairy-free, I cut back on the caffeine, and all the obvious things that would make your stomach unhappy. I thought that's just what it was. But the first week that I was sick, I just didn't feel right. And that is a feeling I've come to really know well, for lack of a better expression, over all of these years of dealing with my illness. When my body, if I just quiet all the noise and you're, figuring in your mind, I always intuitively know when something is wrong with my body. When it's trying to get my attention, it wants help. More frustrating than being sick is, trying to figure out why and how to fix it so you can get better and back to the business of your life. The first week goes, you deal with it, you think it's going to pass, but as you get sicker, it takes on a whole other level, a whole other space inside of you. It's no longer about just the physical. And while that is plenty awful, and no matter how you're sick, being sick or in pain or whatever it is a hell upon itself, it's what it does to your spirit. It's really the emotional side of it. And I know I've made that statement a few times, but I wanted to really delve into what that really means. What does it really mean when a chronic illness is affecting your spirit? And since I had a few weeks to think about it, I hope that I can do what I figured out justice here in order to help some of you out there. Ultimately, as you get sicker and sicker and sicker, and this happened with my head in its own way, it took a longer period of time maybe, or it's just such a different thing, so it was all consuming, right? So you don't think about anything else but the pain or surviving or getting better. When you're sick like that, whether you're in pain, whether you're whatever it is, every time you feel ill or every time you think about somebody getting to do things that you can't, it becomes another reminder of where you are. And that is part of it. Over the course of the weeks as I got sicker, ultimately on the way to getting better, I just felt broken. And my spirit felt broken. And it wasn't the normal thing of like, I'm just frustrated, normally when I fall into one of these spells of sickness, whether it's my head or my stomach, it's when I'm the most vulnerable. It's the when my spirit feels the most weak. And it always sort of bothers me that I know that I'm a strong person. I know that I've gone through X, Y, and Z. I know that I can get through this. But I feel weak. And that's what bothers me. Emotionally, I feel weak. And that's when I want to really always be able to tap into how strong I am. And maybe I need somebody else sometimes to point that out to me. You're strong. You're going to be better. You're going to figure it out. There is more on the other side of this. And I want to really be able to do that for myself. And I'm not really quite there yet. And it's been many, many years I've been working on this. You know, my old pattern was to go the other way and berate myself, which it sort of sounds crazy, I know, but it's like, you know, years ago, before I had made any strides, real strides in my head, a journey, and, you know, I had this dream of always going to Europe by myself. I ended up doing that 4 years ago, and it was wonderful and perfect, and I was the healthiest I've probably felt in a long time. I believe vacation preserves our life on many levels, especially for me. I wish my insurance company would cover it. I think they could stop taking all these drugs and going to all these doctors, but every time I fell into a pit of illness, I would automatically go, so you think you're going someplace by yourself? You can't do that. You think you're going here, you're making these plans, you're never going anywhere. And I don't know why we do that to ourselves, or maybe I'm alone in this way of thinking, but it's always like, see, thank God you didn't do that. And I hated that about myself. I hated that about my mentality, because I know that the mind-body-spirit connection is so important, and that, you know, when you say something, you're the one that's listening, right? I'm such a firm believer in that. And I can do it for other people, right? I can be their cheerleader. I can correct them when they're saying things. I can be their, you know, hopefully their inspiration, their whatever, their strength. But I can't do it for myself. I'm getting better at it. But it takes a long time. And when you're concentrated on the physical, it's very hard to also take that energy and put it into the mental and the emotional. But that's what you also need to do, more so than what you're doing for your physical self, because without that mental, emotional fierceness in you, I feel like you can't really get through anything. And even though my recent illness was something very small in comparison to life and the greater things and the things I've been through and things you've been through, it's just as important. When you first get sick, you, and my head too, you know, you think that it's just a few day thing, right? All right, I have to fix my medication, I have to do something, I'm not going to eat this, I'm not going to stay up late if it's my head, I'm not going to drink alcohol if that's what triggered my headache. But when it goes on for weeks, you start to think, you become superstitious, sort of, right? Like, I got into this pattern where it was like, okay, I woke up on a Wednesday and I showered at 9:30 and I had a cup of tea and I watched Friends for 3 hours and then I get sick. But then at night I was violently ill. It's like, okay, that's not the pattern. If I shower at 1 o'clock in the morning, I've tricked my body into thinking that we've gotten this far, it's not going to happen again. And it happens again. Okay, that's not it. I know what it was. Both of those days I wore these blue shorts. It's got to go in the garbage. I can't ever wear those shorts again without feeling that I'm going to be violently ill. A, it's a reminder of what I felt like that day, and B, it starts to take on this own level of things. Now, you know logically that this makes no sense whatsoever and has nothing to do with what's happening to you. But that's how it starts to feel. It starts to feel like I'm not going to sit on the left side of the couch. That's where everything goes awry. I'm going to sit on the right. I'm not going to make a phone call till 4 o'clock. It becomes all of these other things that have nothing to do with what's actually happening, but your spirit and your mind are hanging on for dear life to try to make sense of what's happening. Especially when it's a newly diagnosed chronic illness, or you've been doing really well and something else happens, and it's just, you're grabbing at straws. You want a reason. You want an explanation. And if it's something stupid like any of those things I listed, then you're like, oh, okay, it's an easy fix. But there are no easy fixes in life, and especially when it comes to being chronically ill. So, I went through these periods of like, I just don't care. I don't want to deal with it. It's over here, I want to wallow. I want to ignore it until I have to be sick or take a pill or do whatever. I want to I don't care. I give up. My mind can't think of another thing. I'm exhausted because I'm so physically sick and probably not sleeping well or eating well. And so now I was dehydrated and barely eating and just sick of it. Sick of it, the whole kit and caboodle. And then there's that little part of myself, which is really, I think, in an everyday, normal, whatever that is, self of mine, is really more 90% of my personality. It's that little guy inside my head saying, okay, come on, Donna, really? Fix it. Just fix it. You're the only person that can fix it, and even though you don't know the answer yet, figure it out. When I'm in my warrior mode, when I have a problem to solve or someone to help, that is when I am on adrenaline. I am in my best self. I feel the most myself. I feel empowered. But when I'm really sick or in pain, that guy, so far from me, I can't grab him. I can't reach out and hold on to that. It goes through this like cycle of like 90% despair and like 10%, warrior princess. And, I try to pull on that, but then like it comes out in little ways, so I call the doctor and we go through all the things and he says to do X, Y, and Z. And so I do those things. And then maybe I feel better, but by the time I hit Y, it's gone left again. And I'm back to the despair mode. I know things take time, and I know my body tends to take a longer period of time to get well or, stop whatever the hell's happening. And in the interim, right, what happens, very rarely does anybody take a pill or stop taking a pill or do whatever and their problem stops. Well, at least that's never been my experience. Even with Botox, right? It's been 7 years that I've been doing Botox. It's not like I did it the first day and I was like, aces, this is fantastic, my life is better. It took years and years and years of getting it done. Everything for me seems to be qualitative or quantitative. It has to accumulate in order for it to have effect on me. And then after those years, when it was steady for a while, then I could start to wean off my preventative medication and all those other things that have now gotten to this point. And it's frustrating as fuck when you can't just get there. Patience is a virtue, and it is not one of my virtues. Not even a little bit. I have no patience. And I just want it over with. I want to be better. I want to be done. And as in everything in life, you just have to go through it. And that's the part that's annoying. But what do you do while you're going through it? How do you try to get your mind and emotional state back up to its fighting mode so that you can figure out what's wrong and maybe move through it and whatever it is? There are breaks in this process, right? It's not a constant 24-hour, like, let's fix this. No. Like I said, it's about 90% in the other direction. So when you have these bouts of relief, even if you're not in pain or being sick, you feel crummy. Your body's not well, you're not well. And even if your body has a little bit of reprieve, your spirit doesn't. And now you're afraid to do anything that feels unsafe. And more than likely for me, that's always been leaving my house. I don't like to be sick out in public or in the world, and more than anything else, I don't want to be a burden or ruin somebody else's day. I have two gears, all or nothing. And when I make a plan, even a small, stupid plan, like going to Kohl's, I want that mission to be successful. Like an astronaut that way. I want to go there, a great time, come back, and just be. I don't want any little bump in that road. If I thought I was getting an iced coffee on the way home, I want to still do that even though I know it would make me sick. I want it to be a successful mission. But when you haven't been well, those first few missions are more than likely to fail. And so then you don't want to leave. So if I'm not leaving my house and I'm not leaving my comfort zone, what is it that I'm doing? Well, more than likely watching TV. I don't care to read a magazine. I certainly don't care to do this. I certainly don't care to blog or cook or whatever. I can't enjoy the food. I don't enjoy the process of worrying if I'm going to feel sick, and it's back to that jinxing thing. Well, I didn't cook yesterday and I felt better. Maybe it's cutting onions that's making me sick. I found that even watching Friends, a show that I've seen 1,000 times that is normally comforting and distracting and just maybe background noise, started to irritate me. And it wasn't about the show specifically. It was about anything. You're watching these. I know it's supposed to be entertainment, so no one really wants anything that heavy. And I certainly didn't. I'm a lover of all things true crime, and the thought of watching anything like that is just too much. It's too much. I needed something that required no emotional involvement or having to think or paying attention or anything like that. And I'm watching, Friends or whatever it was on TV, and I started to get annoyed. And this had never happened to me before. Watching these people, who, of course, are not real characters in life, but what are their big problems? What is the episode, what is the resolution they're trying to get to by the end of the episode? What was the worst thing that happened to them? Their coffee was cold. They slept through their alarm on the way to work. They broke up with their boyfriend. It's also trivial. And I know that's what we love about it. And it's funny. And when you're in a good mood, you can laugh at it and pay attention and appreciate the art for what it is. But when you're not, it's just a reminder. I have, unless I'm watching the wrong things, I have never come across characters on TV or film or whatever it is that have been chronically ill. And certainly not chronically ill the way that I was. I'm not talking about terminal illnesses or anything like that. I'm talking about actually trying to live a regular life as a young person, in the prime of their life, their 20s, their 30s, when all of the normal best parts of people's lives, big parts of their lives, where they're making their career changes or they're starting their families and moving to exciting places and traveling and seeing the world and doing all of these things. When you're ill during those years, it's an entirely different thing. And when my best friend got cancer, that was very heightenedly aware. Young people don't get sick. Whatever young means to you, I mean anything other than old age. And when it's not an old age illness, like, heart disease or something like that, it's a whole other thing. It's a whole other level because people don't understand it. A lot of doctors don't even acknowledge that a young person can be sick, and that's a conversation for another time. But it does something to you emotionally that it's hard to rebound from. And maybe if I would have still had to go through my journey, and it might not have helped. But if I could flip on the TV, and not that when I was down I wanted to watch a replication of myself, but maybe it would have helped. The only thing worse than feeling that sick and being in this circle of, better for 3 hours, sick for 12 hours, better for 12 hours, sick for 3 hours, is the feeling of anxiety and panic when you think that you can go back to your regular life. Panic sometimes is almost worse than the pain because your mind gets away from you, right? And especially in these times where if you have to go to a doctor or be in the hospital or have a surgery, you have to do it alone because of the pandemic. So when I'm at my weakest physically and I'm getting sick and in pain, not only can I not be that warrior princess for myself, I have now gone the entire other direction. And I'm not berating myself exactly, but it's the panicking. What if I have to go to the hospital? I'm going to have to do it alone. What if I have COVID and now I've infected my family and something happens to my mother? I'd never forgive myself. What if I have this horrible disease and so many things are going to get worse before they get better, before I figure it out? And you try to push that away and go through the list logically, and I've been speaking to my doctor, and he didn't have these concerns, but I want reassurance. And I know there's no real reassurance in life, but you need comfort any way you can find it. So you're grabbing onto straws for whatever little piece of light there is at the end of the tunnel. But ultimately what we're talking about here is hope. Where's the hope that we'll be better tomorrow? When I was really sick with my head, I had a friend that always would say to me, you can start over again on Monday, because I would be devastated that my work week went awry. I never got to get to work. I never got to do any of the things that I wanted to do or planned to do. And you can start over. And that starting over thing drove me crazy, because every time I started over, it never went to completion. It always went bad again. And so, hope, forget that. It was more like, here we go. It was Groundhog Day. But you can have hope and fear at the same time. They're not mutually exclusive. And even if you have a sprinkle of hope out of a mass of fear, that's what is ultimately pulling you through. And I know that you want to be afraid to be hopeful, because you've been disappointed so many times and by such great measures. It wasn't a little bad when you left the house. It was awful. All of your worst fears came true. But you know what? You got to get up and do it again. Just because last Thursday, every time I left the house, doesn't mean I can't try again on Sunday and hope for a better experience. Now, there's a difference between hoping for a better experience and, not doing the things that your body is asking of you. So I tried to really quiet my mind and all the things that I'm thinking about that are crazy, and think about it logically. And just be silent and think about, what is my body telling me? Is it telling me that I'm too sick to leave the house? Is it telling me that it needs something, and that although I've planned this, maybe I need to rethink it? Or is it just the panic and fear talking? Because sometimes you can't tell the difference. And maybe it's both, which is more likely the case. Do I feel confident and brave enough to pack all of this fear into my purse and bring it out with me into the world and just take the chance? Do I have a plan? I've always had a plan for when I'm sick. I need to know where the bathroom is, where I can pull over if I'm driving, where I can get a drink if I haven't had one on me, which of course I always do. Do I have all the medications that I need to stop whatever is happening while I'm out there in the wild? Even if the wild is 2 blocks from my house, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if I'm 10 hours away or 2 minutes away. It's the same amount of preparation and panic. But then I decided something. I decided that it was an act of bravery to take my panic and my fear out in the world with me. Now, of course, this is after I've made sure that I'm as better than I had been, and I was just going to try. And it was this idea of trying to be productive or live, even if it meant just getting a haircut and coming right back home, and see what happened. It was an act of bravery to feel like I felt and still live. Whatever that means. If it means just taking deep breaths and making myself an egg white and sitting on the couch, then that's what it means. If it means getting my nails done, that's what it means. If it means driving around the block and coming back, that's what it means. Being out for the day with my cousin and coming home, whatever it means. I need to practice not being so hard on myself when things go a different way than I hoped. I have a life where I'll never know when I'm going to be sick. With my head, with my stomach, it's just how it always has been. And it's until you get these little big bumps in the road, I don't want to say little, these big hills in the road, that you think, oh God, here we go again. I know it is always possible, and you always take that with you a little bit. But when it had just right happened, a new precedent has been set. And so now it's really in your face, like you're leaving your house? Why do you think that that's possible and successful? But maybe it doesn't have to be successful altogether. Not the goal you don't have to finish the goal of the day. Maybe it was just the act of saying, I'm going to try. Now, I know that I'm talking about heroism here, or, I'm not a firefighter running into a burning building, but it is an act of bravery when you are chronically ill to still push past in any way, shape, or form, little or big, and say, I am going to still do what I want to do. I'm going to still try and have hope. And unless I try continuously, I will never be successful. That's what it actually is. Because if you try once and you fail, where are you at? The only precedent you've set is a sad one. And how does that help your spirit? It doesn't. In a way, you end up jinxing yourself. So it's the bravery that we're searching for. And it's brave that you want to even try. But we have to try. Because what's the alternative, really? All of this is leading to our conclusion, and this is what I really It's such a small thing, but it was such a big thing to me. So I have a bracelet on today. And it's not that I just got fancy for you all. It's a reminder, a very little reminder that I forgot that I had, ironically enough. For Christmas, I was gifted this bracelet by my brother. And though it looks like a plain rose gold bracelet, I'm trying to get it off, it has an inscription inside. Now, I know you really can't read what that says. And that's a lot what it looks like before I had my cataract surgery. Actually, this is clearer here than my eyes were. When my brother gave it to me at Christmas, I didn't know it had an inscription because my eyesight was that bad. And I was in a real deep despair about needing eye surgery. And that was really one of my lowest emotional moments. And he said, "Do you see what it says inside?" And I had no idea. And as I look at it now, it sort of makes me choked up a little bit because I can see it so clearly. And it's a gift. It's actually also an act of bravery. Having the cataract surgery, for me, was an act of total faith and fear and bravery all mixed into one. I knew what I needed. I knew how to fix it. But to go through it sucked. And I knew it was going to suck. And I still had to do it anyway. And I knew I was doing the right thing, but it wasn't until I was on this side that I could appreciate it and be proud of myself. I think it's one of the, by far, one of the best things I've ever did for myself, and one of the things I'm most proud of. That despite how sad I was and all of the feelings I had, because it's too complicated of a set of emotions to rehash here, there's plenty of videos from this season that will shed more light on that, is that I did it anyway. And I was able to fix it. And I was able to power through. And I had a million low moments. But a million of those low moments was more than worth the one moment, even if it's something small like this, like looking at the inscription of this bracelet. And I have to keep that in mind. I have to keep that mental list for me of struggles that I've conquered when I'm down again. And it's hard and it's frustrating and maybe we don't want to go through these things again. But there is hope. There is a chance that it will be better tomorrow. And if it's not tomorrow, it'll be the tomorrow after that or after that. We have to keep trying or it's not going to ever be successful. The bracelet inscription had to be read to me Christmas morning. It says, "Keep fucking going, ... I wore it a few times in the new year, but then the pandemic hit and I was having surgery and all this stuff, and who the hell was getting dressed? I certainly wasn't putting on a bracelet. Matter of fact, the only reason I have earrings in my head is because my earlobe started to close. Last weekend, when I was finally getting into that groove of feeling better and being brave, I went out for the day and spent the day with my cousin and her family at her house in her yard. It was a small gathering. I was terrified a lot of the time, but I was well prepared. I was with people that I knew and loved and could feel safe being sick around. So important. And I just thought I would take it one step at a time, which is not really how my mind works. I'm always a million miles away in my head. Just stay in the moment. And I was distracted with laughter and playing with her 3-year-old twins, who I just loved to pieces, and just put a smile on my face. And I was having fun. And I wasn't afraid to have fun. I was enjoying myself. I was present in the moment. I knew I could still feel, I was still feeling a little off, but I was really much better. And I was just going to take each moment as it happened. And before I knew it, 45 moments, 120 moments had passed before I thought about the panic and fear. I was getting better. I was setting myself up for success. I put the bracelet on. I had a couple of bracelets on. I was a wild woman. But I hadn't looked in the inscription since I had surgery. And I know I've shared a million times about all the different things I'm still learning about my, that I could see. And I went to put the bracelet on and something caught my eye because I could see the inscription and I read it. And then I burst into tears then. Because A, the message was so on point, and B, I could see it. It was proof that you can get better, that there is hope on the other side. And besides that, I'm always going to keep fucking going. No matter what. I'm not going to give into it. I'm not going to fully give into the defeat. I might need a few minutes. I might need a day to wallow. I might need to cry my eyes out in frustration and fear. I might need to do a lot of things. But all of those things are an act of bravery, and all of those things are leading to my success. So I'm going to embrace them and be better to myself. And this is my message to you, is to keep fucking going. No matter what it is you're conquering, you're going to conquer it one way or another. There will be resolution, and you can do it too. So until next Tuesday, guys.